The other side, final ending, part 1 down below. Temper tantrums, inappropriate anger, lack of impulse control. This is what happens when you try to argue with a woman who, although very intelligent and knowledgeable, has the emotional development of a 4-year-old. In effect, you are trying to argue with the very angry little girl that is control of her mind. The logical adult part of her mind is being split off, placed out of reach of her conscious mind. You therefore cannot carry on a calm, rational discussion about any sensitive topic because you have only 10 seconds to do so. In that short time, any attempt to discuss sensitive matters will trigger her anger, bringing her child back into the driver's seat, and, with a BPD, nearly every issue is considered a sensitive issue. I can't criticize her in any way no matter how I sugarcoat it. If you love an NPD, you will feel pain and confused to understand her. If you treat NPD as object, which is the way she is treating you, you will have fun and confident. And you are in the right place to better understand her. My wife has NPD and is obsessive-compulsive about cleanness. I used to spoil her and feed her superiority by obey her rules and pay excessive attention to cleanness. I was labeled disrespectfully by her the dirty one anyway. Now, this is how I teach her a lesson to lower her sense of superiority and control. I deliberately break the rule and walk to upstairs with my shoes on, which will trigger her rage. She will open the window, shouting and crying so loudly that a neighbor called 911 once. I will be very frightened, but I can hold on, calmly escape for 3 hours and go back without shoes. Then I will be conciliatory and touch her gently. She will be raging and screaming to death again for the touch. How dare can you touch me after annoying me? And finally break down, as long as I can be cool and win the game of chicken. After this episode, the next day, she will calm down like nothing happened. Typical for NPD, I will discuss her on what did she feel and hopefully let she be aware what a ridiculous reaction she had. I hope I can teach her to low down her sense of superiority and control and help her to be a normal person. At least in the raging part, I am in the back and forth to decide divorce, mostly the timing of divorce. I hope I can help her to get better, to reduce her NPD or BPD traits, before divorce. After divorce, I may lose the influence. We have a son in 4th grade. I am guilty to leave him alone to face his mom after divorce. We still have a vague hope to prove I am wrong, that she has only the traits that can be fixed to better. Here is my update. I called off the divorce 1 month ago and wanted to give another try. So here I went man up. I was consciously assertive. For example, my wife occupied almost all the drawers in our furniture. It is too self-centered, so I told her to give half to me. She refused, after several useless warnings. I emptied some drawers to the floor in the morning. She went nuclear, opened windows and deliberately shouting through the roof. Police came as someone must called 911. In the afternoon after work, I emptied more. She shouted it again. I went outside to calm. At the end, I got what I want. I did several things like this. She seems a little afraid of me, very stressful. I thought I finally got it. I thought I could make marriage work this way. But last week, she showed me the limit. My sister planned to come over from overseas to visit me. She refused my sister to come to our house. This is nonsense and a repeat of her pattern to isolate me from my extended family. She is vicious and stubborn. She pushed my hot buttons. She said she resent me deeply for my rude man up. She called the book I read bad things. She knew I am learning through books. So, we are in square one. The man up failed. She threatened me to call police and put me in jail if I dare to try these tricks. I am going back to divorce mood. She always claims that she loves me and yet her behavior pointed to the opposite direction. She seems very dedicated to our child. She is going above and beyond to take care of him. My son has been showing very strong affection and attachment to her. But I did see her dark side. She became furious when he refused to obey her order. She stays so close to him that everyone would feel suffocated. My son cried a lot like, "You always make me do this and make me do that." I am always not enough. I cannot think how my son can manage her excessive attention after our divorce. I had to admit, my wife had both NPD and BPD, with the NPD the more obvious. I am confused about the distinction between trait and syndrome, as trait can be changed and syndrome doomed. I do hope my wife only has trait. I am trying very hard to understand her. Here is my observation. My wife has a too much in blind confidence and simple only believe herself. She reacts not by reasoning, but by emotion. She can instinctively know what is good or bad to her and she reacts accordingly without second thought. No points to argue with her. She just lies her way to get her goal. Whatever, otherwise, she will show negative emotion and give you pain. She is very effective to make friends right away and looks very sincere and loving. She hides her displeasure and disdain very well. She is actually constantly looking for the shortcoming of her friends and secretively sees her above others. Otherwise, she is secretly jealous and unhappy. She likes to think everybody is jealous of her. She never changes. Sometimes she pretends to change, sometimes just minimize it, sometimes refuse to talk about it. Anyway, it is amazing for me to observe how unyielding she always is. Actually, she fits in the description of high alpha guy very well. Pure high alpha without beta. She belittled me as a woman-like and weak. To man up, I really should look to her as role model. I realize that she has not been in love with me even once. She is incapable of loving others. She faked virgin to me and convinced me I should take care of her lifetime as she would not marry again. She brainwashed me to distance me from all my extended family members. She is a lie professional and extremely good at making everyone believe that she is innocent, sincere, and lovable. My God, I cannot believe how good she is to convince everyone how innocent and genuine she is. I was sold for 15 years and make to believe that she is only act out of childish and innocence. In fact, she is much more complicated than me. She has been manipulating me easily and with damn confidence. My wife has threatened me to throw me in jail and got a restriction order against me. The reason she has not done so because she still needs me financially. I am afraid as years goes by, as she gains more financial support from me, she will feel at one point she does not need me anymore. Things will get ugly from there. She said, I have already saved you many times by not reporting to police. I will not save you next time. I know she will divorce me just as a matter of time, even if I stay. And I will run a real risk to be put in jail and has my career ruined any time. I should concentrate on my boy after the divorce. I am thinking of it these days. My wife always claims she is honest and decent. For me, the truth just cannot get through her. She is wrapping around herself in her inner world, but at the same time, she does watch others carefully. Most her learning comes from her observation and conversation, very shallow. She is stubborn, but at the same time, many times she seems to have not an idea of her own. Now, I am becoming assertive. This causes lots of stress in her as she cannot push me around any longer. She now sees divorce as a way for relief, but she seems has a short memory span. One day she curses to be ran down by a truck. She will behave like nothing happened after 2-3 days. There is never a time in our marriage when we can sit down and have a deep talk. It's just like dealing with a child. For her, it is most about emotions and feelings, and they change from time to time, but she is pretty consistent in asking admiration and praise from me and our kid. She is pretty consistent in bad-mouthing my sisters and parents. She is pretty consistent in using bonding as a weapon. If I make her for a small change, like to go to bed not too late, and 11 p.m. instead of midnight, she will always come back against this, either projection or lie. I just cannot believe her words anymore. Just my thinking about marriage with a NPD, BPD. We got engaged very quick, in about 1 month. This was honeymoon period. She got a boost in her self-image at that time, even at that time. She showed care to me only when I was sick. She did not really care about my feelings. She actually deliberately isolates me from my family. When I told her I might have a serious heart disease, she cold-heartedly withdraws completely and research extensively on how this would affect her. Never a comforting word to me. She has been actually attached to her family deeply even after our marriage. Her mom, dad, and brothers all spoil her, treating her like a queen without any critical feedback. This outrageous spoil is impossible to get from outside world, even from me. Therefore, she always places me at an intimate level much less than her family. This is also a mechanism to not be vulnerable to me, avoiding the hurting truth from my mouth. She has an unlimited appetite to seek approval, praise, and admiration from others. Over the years of marriage, she is disappointed in some feedback from me. Her heart slowly withdrew from me, and now concentrated on our kid. She thinks herself a great mom with self-sacrifice. Relationship with her feels like with a rock, no real intimacy, no real communication, no real meaning. She just does not have the ability and capacity to be a real meaningful wife. What she asks for me is not intimacy and deep connection. She wants me to be submissive for her control. Always sees her as MS, right and wonderful, at least, provide her with money and security. If I fulfill the above requirements, she will be contented with her marriage. Her real satisfaction will come from her communication with her family and let them be proud of her. From her chatting with her friends and let they be jealous of her. From her interaction with our son and owe his success to all her sacrifice. When we travel to a beautiful spot, when we play at a crowded water park, when we join in a joyful party, my kid and I will enjoy and engage. But for my wife, she appears cool and remote, just not in the spirit. It was in these most joyful moments that I was surprised to see her lacking something, which made me feel sad. She is always interested in taking pictures of herself, just to prove to herself or album lookers that she has been there among something wonderful. I know there is something wrong with myself. I just always dream to have my wife back as a normal or subnormal person. I keep thinking there may be 1% chance that my wife can be saved by changing my behavior, and with her aging, I actually feel guilty of abandoning her too. She said in tears that she had no job, although she can look for but has not to, and her living standard will suffer after the divorce. Her father accused me of abandoning her after using her for so many years. All our friends see nothing wrong with her and firmly against divorce. I used to have a very weak personality and was persuaded to give her chances one after another. It took lots of rounds of frustration for me to finally stand up against such group mentality. Yesterday I wanted to give it another try and wished my wife would at least show some signs of adjusting to our new relationship after I man up. She has been unhappy recently and I worry about the possibility of her depression. I wanted to be close with her and see what is in her mind. She was a genius in figuring out my next move when I went home last night. Before I had a chance to suggest to her that we move to the same room and have a talk, she told me she had a severe headache, heart problem and migraine from our fighting 1 week ago and did not even have the strength to talk. She was still mad at me for her lost control apparently. I saw her lying or at least greatly exaggerating her discomfort. I kept pushing her for the symptoms and said I need to take care of her in my room in case of emergency, as she claimed. I told her the previous fighting was due to her unreasonable insisting to isolate my sister and her dad was not good to spoil her. Not as a saint as she claimed. She became furious as I dared to say something negative to her family. She jumped out of bed, raised voice as loud as thunder, and cured my family hysterically. She desperately prayed to God to punish me. It was at midnight and of course my son was waked up by her voice. My son tried to calm us down, not to encouraging such a bad behavior. I tried 4 times to get her to move to my room to talk. Every time I was defeated by her voice and my son. She once threatened to call 911 and said I was abusing her. She looked like being tortured to death by my words just to challenge her lies and authority. She absurdly claims me a monster and only wanting a good time in front of my son and totally blamed me in waking our son up. I was stunned by her reaction and told myself this is not the wife in my memory. For her. There are no love for me and I am easily be painted as evil in her mind and she really believe it. I am just ashamed of myself keeping come back to her for a faint hope of reconciliation. I should get a slap in the face for my weakness. I was surprised by her extraordinary, detailed memory of my bad things. I was equally amazing at her entirely forgetting how many good things I have been providing to her and she can be grateful of. There is no place in her mind for a word grateful to others. She said I should always be grateful to her because she was a special person and could bring good luck to her husband. She said who knows how I would be without her blessing. I am divorcing my wife, as we had a kid, and I do have an emotional attachment to her. I do not mind lost money to her. I hope she can have a happy life of her own that will let me feel relief. If she is in depression, I will feel some kind of guilty, but now, money seems like the only language that can talk to her. It is the only leverage I have that can make her do something. After divorce, if I leave her lots of money and alimony, I will not have any influence in shaping her behavior regarding to my kid. For sure, I need to talk to her about our kid's education after divorce. I know she likes to disagree with me and love to say no. Leaving too little money, she will see a big drop in living standard. I am afraid she will be crazy and do some crazy things. 1. Any negative words against her family, especially her dad, they are all perfect. If I mention any shortcomings, she is enraged. In her childhood, her dad was wrongfully convicted and her family had suffered a lot. She believes her family is superior and unique comparing to filthy and dangerous outside world. She has a twin brother, who she is deeply attached to. She is the only girl in her family and the most spoiled and bossy one. 2. Any positive words and closeness about my family. I wonder why she hates my family so much as they never lived together. I am giving money to support my mom as she is disabled. She said it felt like my family was stealing money from her although I work and earn it. She said her family was rich in her childhood and the fortune was taken away by government and bad guys. 3. She is obsessed with cleanness and cannot control herself if anyone violate her rules of cleanness. She has an order of cleanness. Our son and her are cleanest. I am the less one. My working suite was supposed to be dirty. If I dare to bring them inside our home out of the designated dirty zone, she will be furious. 4. Disobey her and dismiss her authority will sink her into a depressed mood. Double this. You get a trigger. In one weekend, my son did not get up on time after she urged. That set up a bad mood for her. Later that day, she found faults in the way he grabs the pen, as he refused to change the way she wanted. She was so mad that she threw the pen at my son and hit him in the ear. Her rage was expressed by these ways: 1. Shouting, as loud as thunder. 2. Crying loudly with nasty words. 3. Hitting, X in your face. 4. Terrible facial impressions and body language that shows her so sick and angry that she was near death and need ambulance to emergency room. 5. Fetch a weapon such as knife and scissors. 6. Threaten to call cops and label you an abuser. 7. Pretend to X herself. 8. Go through many medical exams. Consider this: after 14 years of marriage, there are still nothing left in the heart and soul of us. It is like to marry to a pig. What is linking us is money, like what links between a person and a pig is food. This is very hard for me to understand and accept. I know my marriage is over. There are many times my wife is close to call police and ruin my life. But she did not pull the trigger. I think it mostly because she does depend on me financially, and I have a little bit of leftover value being narcissistic supply. As years go by, her needs of me financially will not be overwhelming. My wake-up behavior will get more intolerable for her. She will pull the trigger sometime down the road and give me a lecture because I should deserve it long time ago. At that time, I would better kill myself regretting that I have been too coward to act on my best judgment for so many years. I know I can survive and have a better life with my current wife. What is breaking my heart is how to minimize the damage to my 9-year-old son. I will act strongly for him, but now I am confused about what is the best way to go for him. First, I need to examine my codependency problem. It is like a mental disorder. No matter how much I swear to distance from my wife, there is not one day goes by without me daydreaming to have a changed or misunderstood wife back. Every time she behaves nicer, I would be touched and hope it will last. Second, I will take Uptown's advice, try to find psychologist for myself. I did look it up online. I have not found one who is good at BPD and PD in Boston area. I will keep looking and welcome any recommendation. My wife is high functional. I am afraid an ordinary psychologist without good BPD and PD experience will be fooled by her. My wife is very likable, much more popular than I am. She is good at making people do things for her and believing her. She can make friends in 10 minutes. Third, I will focus on my son instead of my wife. There are lots of room for me to improve to be a good daddy. I will look for advice and buy books on this regard. I know we both know I have such a weak point. My wife has been taking full advantage of it. She is taking grant of me and is overconfident in her charms. Her another weapon is weapon of massive destruction, WMD. She showed me one of her WMD by threatening to kick me out of house. Tell Polish I am threatening her. And sue me to give more money to her. Her face transformed to another shape when she spoke it. Just days ago, she was so nice and her face shows as an honest, sincere, caring and loving wife. I am stunned to learn how a person can change so dramatically just in front of my eyes in the matter of minutes. Her body language changed as well. This year, I have discovered lots of her new combinations of faces and body languages. Her drama is worth the price I am paying. A learning opportunity once in your life. As the separation and divorce underway, I am playing with fire. Just an update. I did try this tough up and stand up technique in the past months. At one point, I thought it was working and my marriage could be saved, but it soon backfired. It did cause lots of stress in my wife. At one point, she kowtowed to me just to fend off my persistent request to talk to her after her being upset. So, I thought I had found a way to force her to face up her problem. But, she turned around and proved me wrong. She went to nuclear and was not afraid to scare our son as she used to. It was a game of chicken of us and the real victim was my son. So, I was defeated. No more trying. I am now more determined than ever to go through the divorce. To my wife, the standing up of me was too painful to tolerate. She rather goes to divorce, or die, or sacrifice my son than being humiliated by me. It reminded of my father, when my father abused my sister to bend her will to work early. I once stood by my sister and said he was so wrong. My father was so furious that he said the whole family was no good to him and deserved to be destroyed. He might say this only under extreme stress, but I was only a kid then. I was frightened by his rage and frightened to push him over the edge, so I retreated and gave up my voice. I regretted it to death today and felt I failed to rise to protect my sister then. This has been haunting me all the time and serves to remind me of my guilt. I am now concerned that if I fail to do something, my son will develop NPD. BPD traits or codependency. My plan is to divorce my wife next year, quit one of my part-time job, spend more time with my son, and be happy with myself. I was very easy to be drawn to my wife and waste lots of energy and time there. I need them for my son and myself. The hard part of me is to recognize her as a stranger. The familiar and loving image of her in my mind was the production of mine and I need to let it go. This does not happen overnight, no matter how hard I try. when she is nice to me. The old image will come to my mind and I need actively press it down. I do not want to fall back to her tricky charms and go back to the old circle of frustration again. I am now talking to myself what she really is. I want to establish a new nerve connection about her in my brain. It needs exercise. I regard this as a progress for me to grow up mentally. I would be proud of myself to be able to get over with her with a clean and positive new start. Even an idiot can tell we are going to divorce. I know my wife does not want it, but as stupid as she can be. She is now concentrating on getting money from me, not to use my weak point to lure me back, which give me a needed mind boost. She is taking every chance to try to get as much money from me as possible to the point as shameless and blatant. I cannot understand her at all. An idiot would do better than her if she wants to save her marriage. Every time I try to rationalize her action and words, I am proved I am dead wrong. Every time I take her words as is, I will later realize that I have been naive. Whenever her lips are moving, lies will come out. Whenever my mind is working to understand her, I am played. My conclusion is, a normal person just has no way to understand her. It is so hard to leave my wife, especially in this way, slow and steady. With your help, I can understand more of her now. This has greatly reduced my pain. I am now focused on what is wrong with me. Why I have been staying in this bad relationship for 15 years. I want to face my weakness head on. I feel I become stronger every day and I finally can do what is right for me instead of paying too much attention to how other people think. My mind seems clearer now. For my wife, in spite of how hateful she feels to me, I do wish her well. I have come to terms with whatever her future is. It is unrelated to me. She needs face consequences of her own behavior. If she has good luck by winning a lottery or getting a good husband after divorce, I will be happy for her too. Update on last night. We went at a friend's house to celebrate his son's birthday, 3 families together. My wife started to dump her bad feelings about me to them. I am a monster. She is the victim. She said how good my friend is as a husband. I went off by saying, if you think he is better than me, then go with him as his mistress. I could not believe I said such hurtful words in front of friends. I just lost control as she always said these things and I had enough. So, I have a long way to go to be a man I want to be. I am now realized that I have an issue myself, codependency. I just got it recently and I am working on it. I have been spending 15 years trying to make sense of what my wife did to me and I desperately hope she could change. In the process, I buried my head in the sands and lost sight of myself. I may secretly fear of abandonment. Even the thought of abandon others will give me a strong feeling of guilty. My wife is a queen to take advantage of my feelings. Still, I feel an urge to understand her and see through her eyes every day. I have to actively counter it by thinking of myself too. The marriage should be finished many years ago. By acting cowardly and prolong a lifeless marriage, we both waste our lives and take the psychological damage. It just looks like my wife's NPD. The PD traits are much more obvious now and her morale really takes a big hit. For me, it is countless regret and a deep shame to see how low I have been succumbed to. I know my life is taking a new turn. I will emerge with a healthier mind. Update on me. I am making some progress in realizing my codependency issue and dealing with big life events. I have been making bold decisions that later I was very proud of. It is so eye-popping for myself to realize how weak I have been in dealing with my wife. Dealing with relationship, I am a people pleaser and a loser in marriage, while in dealing with my education and career problems, I have always chosen the tough roads and I have been successful. I just cannot believe how low I have been allowed myself to slip. No self-respect, no long-term things. No vision of my marriage, no control of my inner drive. To the point that my son said he had 50% of my genes and they are bad. I allow my wife to brainwash him for so long. I have been thinking of divorce for 15 years, but I cared about what my wife might think, my parents-in-law and brother-in-law might think, what our friends might think. I hoped they could help me to get my wife to be reasonable and serious. I am now exhausted all the resources. I feel better now, but I waste time. Divorce is a wonderful thing for a sham marriage, like mine. My wife now sees more signs that divorce is coming and has become more emotional these days. We visited a friend's house yesterday. Wife could not wait to blast me for how I am. In a moment, she angrily slapped me on the head. Our friends were stunned. They were also surprised by my minimizing it and getting used to it. Today our son and his friend opened a bottle of Coca-Cola and spilled it all over the floor. Wife got mad and eventually refocused her anger on me as I spoke for the kids. Her angry embarrassed the visiting friend. Tonight, wife read Bible in my room loud to me, claiming to help me making senses as I am the evil. I regard it as a sign forward for her. At least, she is realizing that she needs some time to do soul searching. Although for me, I just need to be vigilant not to fall victim on her gaslighting. Her so-called truth is just distorted too much to be true. In the morning, wife and son get up. I will hear my wife repeatedly order my son to do this and to do that. Lots of times they end up quarreling with my wife out loud and outlast the opponent. Then they go to school with a big bang of the door. I get up and make my breakfast. If I happen to go to work late, my wife will stay wherever to avoid going back home to meet me. Most times, she will spend the time chatting with her friends pleasantly or calling her family to show her love. Then I will go to work for a whole day. The day usually passes without a single phone call from each other. If she calls, most of the time it is about the money, the chores I forgot, or a nice reminder of what I need to bring home. I work usually till evening. When I drive back home, I need to open the door in the dark. I remind my wife several times to keep the door open or turn on the light for me to use the key. My wife will get defensive, and later on will conveniently forget about it. After entering the door, I will find my wife and son have finished their dinner, with nice leftovers for me. My son normally does not like to talk to me in order to show his mom which side he has taken. He sometimes manages to kick me in the legs, which will bring a smile on his mom's face. My wife will tell me how considerate of her to keep these leftovers warm for me. I said I prefer the family eating together. She countered me to be selfish to have kid waited for me for dinner. After hearing lots of such conversation, my son knows who is always on his side and take care of him, and who is not. He spares no chances to please his mom. While show a distance toward me, my wife usually picks up several things that I did wrong. I had placed my shoes in wrong places, had been eating without manners, or I am just plain dirty, so please wash hands before touching our son. If I argue, my son will come to aid for mom to toe me in the line. To keep cool in such tense environment, I try to pop some jokes and put up some defiant smiles. That makes me look like a rebellion teenager in my son's eyes. I guess, to gain some respect, I come up with a song called Everyone Listen to Daddy. That will make my son laugh and follow with Everyone Listen to Mommy. My wife will emphasize how I am controlling and call my mind a mess. She will gladly review the things I did wrong, which my son eagerly agrees and laughs. Anyway, my purpose was defeated again, but I am satisfied with bringing some entertaining moments in my family. After dinner, I am looking to my son, trying to be helpful in his study. My time with my son will mostly depend on my wife's mood. If she's satisfied with my performance or if relationship is so bad that she wants to pull me closer, she will generously allow my son to be with me or even urge my son to be listened to me. Otherwise, she will instruct my son and occupy him with lots of activities that I should not disturb. When I complain I do not get enough time with kid, she will take this opportunity to remind me that I always come too late at home and I have not been an attentive father yet. When I discipline my son, my wife will become uncomfortable and come in for a rescue. Her tricks are many. Time is up. Be defensive of the kid. Point out I am not perfect. Already do well considering how bad our parenting. She tries to be polite by not explicitly blame me only. If I am in a bad mode and shout at her to shut up, she will be extremely angry and pull all the stops to come out on top, screaming, screaming and screaming, until policemen knock the door. But this kind of accident is fortunately not common. Small quarrels every other day, medium quarrels every week, big and scary quarrels every 1-2 months. So, I used to cope. Hope I can get something sweet at night. Almost every day some phone calls will come in, most for my wife. My wife is popular among friends. She talks sweetly to them, being generous in offering help, being supportive and sympathy all the time, and being smart and confident in offering lots of tips on how to deal with lots of things. She is proud of herself to be so popular. As I have much fewer close friends, it just shows she is better in so many ways. The bedtimes come. My wife usually starts house chores at 11 p.m. Most times she is still busy after midnight and remind me how much she has done for the family. Mind you, she is a stay-home mom with one school-age kid. She always reminds me how much hard work for her to do to be staying-at-home mom, at least much harder than my working 6-7 days a week. Because I do not earn enough, she has to do some yard work while a neighbor is using outside help. I told her he is a senior. She shot back by pointing out that she saw plenty of young ladies here doing nothing but playing with dogs. They have a much bigger house and parties. She reminds me again that we are poor, which set a solid basis for her 2 everyday arguments. First, I am not able to be a good bread earner. Second, should not mail some money to help my disabled mom. Recently she is odd enough to play nice on me by reading Bible and some books on relationships before me. She says how nice she is and will go to heaven, while I am so bad that I even do not deserve to go to hell. I need to be tortured to death and then go to hell. This is because I am raising D-word to her and she thinks how dare. How ungrateful I am to leave her. Hopefully she will soon find some closure in my such nasty behavior. Last night, when she was away, I found my email account left open in her tablet. She is secretly watching me but giving no clues about it. I deleted it and changed my password. When she was back, she was mad and accused me of controlling. She raised her voice and talked to me like scolding a baby. I tried to force a boundary and told her to stop talking like this. She talked even louder. I threw one piece of paper to show my disapproval. She was enraged and tried to grab my laptop that I was working on. I ended with a fight with her. She threatened to call police. I threatened to kill her if her dared. She ran out of the door and kept screaming. My son was frightened and told me, "Dad, although I like you to stay here, but you had better leave now to avoid things get worse." So I had to leave to my office to escape the scene. This was a typical game of chicken between us and I ended up being a loser. Always. As I understand her better now, her rage normally lasts for 1 to 2 hours, so I drove back home at midnight. When I used the key to open the door, she had a childish behavior try to block me inside. Although she tried to look angry, she had a smile on her face. After I satisfied her by allowing her to kick me in the leg several times, I was allowed to go to sleep. In the next morning, she went to my room and asked me to ski together. I refused. She was upset and repeated her tricks to make me uncomfortable. While I am sleeping in bed, she pulled the comforter away from me to get me cold, put away my pillows, opened the windows in this winter. Of course, all the while, she dumped her unpleasure to me loudly by accusing me lots of things. Some of it I will be embarrassed to let my son overhear it, like I am not a good father. It is my fault for last night's fight. I do not care about my son. My son will hate me and hit me. My son does hit me afterwards in playful ways to please his mom. I just want a good time with her and she is happy to shut me down. I hate myself for not being able to divorce her sooner and cannot stop caring about her. 1.5 years later, updated, in a process of divorce. Very stressful, slowly gaining confidence. I filed the complaint for divorce last year. Things move slowly. Another year later, I am still in the process of divorce. She has already spent over 20,000 lawyer fees, trying to paint me as a bad person who intentionally and deliberately hide income and minimize her alimony. I was charged $75 lawyer fees. I tried not to upset her more and answered her needs as far as I could. It turned out not working. She uses every chance with me to collect unfavorable materials against me. I am now heeding my lawyer's advice. I do not talk to her. We only communicate through email. She surprised me by trying hard to block my parenting time with my kid. My son was brainwashed by her and is not happy with my insisting on divorce. But my relationship with him has slowly turning better than before. He respects me more now, under the court order. I am now having parenting time with my son alone without her presence. I could not get such chance inside marriage before. Overall, I am optimistic of my relationship with my son, and I believe it would be better over time. Recently she just fired her lawyer and her third lawyer had just contacted my lawyer to use her retirement account to pay her lawyer fee. It is an expensive and painful divorce, but I am glad I am heading to the right direction. Half a year later, update since my STBXW lawyer argued in court that she should get more child support based on her parenting time. She has been looking for ways to reduce or forfeit my parenting time. My STBXW successfully manipulated our son to testify against me at court claiming physical and verbal abuse. The judge believed in the kid and threw me a restraining order for 1 year. The social worker came in and concluded that the claim of abuse was not supported. 1 month later, update, pre-trial finished. The judge said it would be difficult for us to do co-parenting under current circumstance. She is seeking full physical and full legal custody, pressured by the court to get employed. She said she got a part-time job which paid her very little, about $1,000 a month. I remembered vaguely. She has a master's degree. I wonder how many days she is working to get such meager salary. I know this is consistent with her intention to live a parasitic lifestyle and extract maximum child support from me. Parasite is a hot button for her. 1 year final update, divorce finalized, started a new life. I got the shared legal custody. She got the full physical custody. She discouraged my son to live with me. My son is in a good relationship with me but has not lived in my house since. He is in high school and very busy in studying, so I am letting him be and offering help whenever he needs me. Another year later, great update from me is that I have found a girlfriend and we are working together toward a future marriage. She also left behind a bad marriage and an emotionally damaged son. There are plenty of wounds to heal for both of us, frankly. Although I want to marry her but I still have nightmares about marriage itself. She is very empathetic and accommodating to me. I am living a happy life now. Another great update is from my mom. She is now happily living with my fiancé and me. We bought a new house in a nice neighborhood last year. We are pretty happy with it. My mom has been disabled for 30 years and had 3 emergencies last year. She puts all these behind her and regains a fair good health right now. My comment: what do you guys learn from this ending? I think OP escaped from this mess. I know he didn't get custody, but escaping this mess was the best result you hoped for. You guys agree? Comment down below how you feel about this final ending, and on to the next story.